but I want to talk about Miami and Florida because there's been a lot of hype around Miami, right? This off season. I feel like we see this every single year. Everyone gets all excited and drinks Kool-Aid that Miami's back. But one reason why I'm curious about it too is everyone's hyping up Cam Ward, and that was my quarterback last year. And listen, he's fun, he's flashy, but I honestly think the guy's not that great of a quarterback. If you watch him, he holds the ball down way too much. And then when it's like 3rd and 12, can he make a play? Absolutely. He can scramble around, but sometimes he gets in his own head and he tries to do too much. And more times than not, he ends up making a bad play. Just from me watching him last year, because granted, he was playing for the Cougs and we're not that great of a team, but still, you could just see some of those instincts he has. Is if he can't hit his first read, he wants to improvise and trying to scramble around and make something happen. And sometimes he gets a little too cute, especially when the game's on the line. So I don't know how that's going to work down in Miami, but I'm curious about how you guys, how you feel, Robert, about Miami and Florida here.
Well, that's the main point. I see all these people that have forgotten about Cam Ward's limitations. That, he got a big paycheck. Apparently a $2 million plus paycheck to play 1 year at Miami. So, credit to him for getting getting the cash. But if you watched him play at Washington State, he was very up and down. Like I see all this analysis as if he's an obvious Heisman favorite. I'm like, did everybody just forget, have amnesia about half his games?
Second favorite. And I'm like, what are we doing? He's like 7-1. He's a second favorite. I'm like, no, don't bet that. Bet the no.
Exactly. So, I think I'm still a skeptic. Granted, Florida, experimented with the Southern Miss defensive coordinators, heavy blitz scheme last year. They didn't know what they were doing. The players in half the games, defense fell apart most of the time. So I can get where, he brings in another older veteran to try to balance out the co-defensive coordinator jobs to see if they can come up with some sort of balance. He won't be on the hot seat just because of how tough the schedule is. But if he loses to Miami in the first game of the year, he will be on the hot seat because you can't lose to your in-state rival in Gainesville, given that he has almost no equity built up there in Gainesville. And the president that was part of, the whole president's gone, the former senator who took over, senator from Nebraska. Now there's a scandal about the Florida president. He was hiring all his buddies at fat contracts. Well, what do you think you're going to get when you hire somebody from Washington, D.C. to run your university? But I liked this coach when he was at Florida coach, when he was at UL Lafayette. Miami, Mario Cristobal, great recruiter, has hired some great coordinators this season, but this is the guy that single-handedly loses you a game every single year. Forgetting to have the quarterback kneel down. How do you do that 3 different times in your college football career, like Mario Cristobal did?
How does that happen once, let alone 3 times?
I know, it's just astounding. And so it's like, I'm supposed to trust this guy on the road in Gainesville? And it's another game where you'll see all these prognosticators in press say, oh, this is the most talented Miami team. Well, I'll tell you right now, on paper, Florida's got more talent than Miami, and they're playing at home. At least from a recruiting ranking perspective, most recruiting rankings have Florida's existing roster more talented than Miami. It's like, and it's amazing the convenient memory, selective memory you're seeing. I call it memento memory after the movie Memento. Memento. Like, they'll highlight Miami's incoming transfers in the receiving corps. I was like, but when they talk about Georgia, they'll talk about Georgia getting Miami's best receiver. It's like, but somehow when they talk about Miami, they don't mention that Miami lost who they say is their best receiver when they talk about Georgia. So you got a new quarterback in a new offense that has struggled with consistency, playing against a Florida defense that has a lot to prove with a new defensive coordinator and a lot of talent. And then you got Florida's offense. People forget Mertz really was good last year. He was just hurt on and off.
Yeah.
So yes, solid. They lost Etienne to Georgia as a running back, but they got a decent running back room. And that former UL Lafayette coach has never struggled to run the ball wherever he's been. So if Mertz does at least, I get Percival's in the 49ers camp, but the young creative freshman they had last year before he got banged up showed real potential. So I'll take Florida catching points there in the Swamp.
Okay. A quick funny story about that, Cricket. When I was in high school, we were so bad that I was a freshman and I was the starting quarterback for the varsity team. That's how bad we were. We won one game And I was so used to us being so terrible and having to spike the ball at the end of the game that when I was supposed to knee it because we were leading and knee out the clock, that I instinctively spiked it on accident. My coach was pissed because then we actually had to convert the 4th down instead of just kneeing out the game. So I get how you can have a little mental lapse, but also I wasn't a college football head coach, but I get it happens every now and then. But Cricket, how do you feel about this game?
Miami there started strong last year, 4-0, got as high as number 17 in the AP poll, and then had that debacle against Georgia Tech where they could have just taken a knee. They had a 453-yard to 174-yard advantage in that game and still managed to lose it on a Hail Mary there. And then you've seen them, they played well, wound up beating the Clemson team last year, but then had some struggles in a couple games. They had no business losing right there. And Mario Cristobal is the biggest question for me. You bring in all the new guys. They got Damian Martinez, the running back from Oregon State, to go along with Cam Ward there. Pick up a guy like Zach Carpenter at center to come in, and C.J. Clark on the defensive line. So they did well in the portal, and like Robert said, Cristobal is a great recruiter and does this well, but can he put those pieces together throughout the course of a game? Florida's going to be a much better team this year. This is a team that I do like their win total to go over, sitting at 5.5 right now. I expect them. They're coming off a 5-7 season again, but a plethora of talent down there. You got a solid quarterback. It's a veteran guy that's played a lot of big time football at 2 different universities now. Billy Napier is a great coach. He's been able to he can do a lot with a little in spots, and it's hard to win in the SEC. He's in year 3 now, should be primed and have all his systems in place. His whole everything that he wants to do with that program should be coming together at this point right here. So I think 5.5 wins for this team is way too low. I feel like this is way closer to probably an 8, possibly if they can steal a game here and there. They only have 4 true road games this year. Play Georgia at a neutral site in Jacksonville, so only 4 true road games. So a pretty favorable schedule there. If they can handle business in the Swamp, this could be a team that really surprises the folks this year. And I think 5.5 is far too low on that win total. So Miami better come out ready to play, or it's going to be you're going to hear a lot of real upset Hurricane fans early on in this thing. But I think Florida definitely at home right there catching points. This should be closer to a pick in my opinion. So I'll take the 2.5 for Florida as well.
Yeah, I think everybody's talking about Florida having the toughest schedule in modern college football history is making assumptions about the quality of LSU, the quality of Ole Miss, the quality of Miami that I think are not well grounded if you look under the hood.
I agree.
I think I might have found another teaser leg too. So, I mean, we'll get those
I
points
love that
up.
as a teaser leg. Get that up to 9.
Yeah.